Jigsaw was directed by the Spierig brothers, the guys behind Predestination and Daybreakers, two films I really enjoyed. This is now the 8th film in the Saw franchise after Saw, the supposedly final chapter that came out 7 years ago, and we are restarting again with a bunch of people who are trapped in a horrible, deadly game devised by the killer Jigsaw. But Jigsaw has been dead for many years, so who is orchestrating these events? Is it a copycat? Is it the actual Jigsaw killer? What's going on here? If you guys saw my review of Saw I did with my friend Matt Brando, you know that I really enjoyed that film and some of the sequels, Saw 2 and Saw 6. Saw 3's okay, but 4, 5, and 7 I thought were really bad, and after a while the series forgot its roots. It forgot its psychological roots and it became a gore fest about traps and really nothing else. So I was excited for the prospect of somebody who hadn't really been involved with the previous Saw films coming in to direct a new one all these years later, because the possibility of reinvention is very real. Jigsaw, however, does follow for the most part the tried and true formula of the Saw films, especially the sequels. There's a police procedural aspect where we have detectives trying to figure out what's going on. There's of course the people trapped in Jigsaw's game and an eventual third act reveal that lets you know that a whole bunch of crazy shit happened at one point in time, and you have to put all those pieces together. So I guess in that way I was let down by Jigsaw because I was hoping that they would have a film 7 years later with more of a reason to exist beyond let's make another Saw movie, because this really does follow the specific formula that the sequels have invented for the Saw films. It doesn't really go back to the psychological roots of the first, although there are some traps that are less gory than others, and it's nowhere near as over the top as the last few Saw films got. It at least has some restraint, but it tries to please the people who really enjoy the gorier aspects of the sequels as well as the psychological aspects of the first. And so in some ways, this film can be appreciated by both Saw fans, the ones who just want the psychological element and the ones who just want the gory element. But at the same time, there isn't really anything new here. I do think it's better than Saw 4, Saw 5, and Saw 7. It's well directed, it looks good. In regards to things they have changed, it's mostly stylistic choices and aesthetic choices. This is the first Saw film to be in the 2:35 aspect ratio, so it feels more cinematic than the others. The last few Saw sequels began to feel sort of like an elongated miniseries that just kept going and going with this plot that kept twisting and turning. This one feels more cinematic and more like a film. The hyper sped up quick cut editing that was jarring in the other films with weird sound effects and people screaming, that's gone. This movie doesn't have any of that jarring editing, so really the only major differences in this film to the others are stylistic choices, which is a directorial thing. From a story standpoint, it's pretty much like all of the other Saw films. So I was hoping for more, but at the same time, this is a lot more watchable than some of the other Saw sequels because, honestly, critics have never really liked any Saw film. Even the first Saw film does not have more positive reviews than negative, and that was a very highly influential film that a lot of people really like. So I don't really listen to the critics too much when it comes to the Saw movies, and if you are a fan of the Saw films, you don't even have to listen to me. Just go see it. You'll probably enjoy it. It does have a twist that kind of feels like a bait and switch where you're like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how they're gonna, oh, okay, well, never mind. This is not a great film. It's not even really that good of a film. I didn't care about any of the characters, really. The traps were semi-scary, but for the most part, it was just a lot of like wincing and then, okay, it happened. All right, that happened. And it doesn't really feel as psychological as I was hoping it would be. I'm gonna give Jigsaw a C+. For a franchise to come back 7 years later without really doing much of anything new beyond stylistic choices, that was disappointing, but I feel like if you're a hardcore Saw fan, you'll probably enjoy it. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.